I didn't know a person could apply lipstick like it was a threat. Dana stood in front of the bedroom mirror with that steady, surgical hand, painting her mouth into a perfect crimson warning label. The dress was black, the heels were weapons, and the perfume was a lawsuit waiting to happen. Saturday night had elbowed its way into our house like it owned the place. "Don't wait up," she said, which was cute, because that implied I'd been waiting up any night this week. Third night in a row of girls' night, except apparently the girls had the same 2 colognes and 1 truck with custom rims. "Third night out," I said, leaning in the doorway. "What are you training for? The nightlife triathlon?" Her eyes met mine in the mirror. Cool, bright, appraising. "It's just a club, Troy?" "Right." Like the last 2 just clubs. And the 2 a.m. returns with the "my phone died" miracle. Resurrection must be exhausting. She capped the lipstick. Click, like a judge's gavel. "I'm not asking for your permission." "Good. Because you don't have it." I didn't raise my voice. Didn't need to. At some point you learn that quiet is heavier than shouting. "You're not going." Dana turned fully. The kind of turn that says, "Here comes the scene." "Excuse me?" Third night out, third night disappearing until dawn. We're not roommates who nod at each other at the cereal shelf. We're married. Or we were playing that on TV controlling, she said, as if she'd been waiting to use the word since breakfast. "You're being controlling." Funny, I thought I was being observant. "You keep vanishing like a magician's assistant, except I know exactly where the trapdoor is." She crossed her arms. "So what? I can't go dancing now? I can't have a life?" "You can have one life. Pick which house it's in." There was a pause, short, sharp, like a match striking. She wasn't used to the door closing before she could slam it. Her chin lifted. "Fine," she said. "You want to fight?" "Not really. I was hoping for a conversation. But if you want to shadow box with yourself, I'll get the popcorn." Something in the calculation behind her eyes changed. She checked the time on her phone, then the distance to the door, then me again. We stayed locked like that for a few breaths. I didn't move. "Whatever," she said finally, snatching her clutch from the bed. "You've made it impossible. Happy now?" Ecstatic. She tossed the clutch back down as if she'd always planned to. "I'll stay." "Okay? Satisfied?" I didn't answer. I walked to my side of the bed, set my phone to Do Not Disturb, and turned off my lamp. "Seriously?" she asked. "You start this whole thing and just go to sleep?" "It's late. Big day tomorrow." I'm thinking of waking up and not pretending silence. Then the subtle rustle of fabric. Dana disappeared into the bathroom. The mirror clicked dark, the heels went back into their mausoleum, and the black dress went into a pile that said, "I lost, but I'm not admitting it." She slid into bed like a stranger renting the space. The mattress caught her breath. I felt the heat of her shoulder just beyond the treaty line of the middle. We lay there like that, 2 ideas pretending to be a marriage, while the house breathed around us and the digital clock kept shouting the time we were wasting. I fell asleep to the sound of her resentment. I woke to the sound of drawers. It was that mean little slam that only a dresser can make at 3 in the morning. A small noise that somehow sounds like a building coming down. The room was a floodplain of yellow light, harsh and unflattering, bleeding in from the bathroom. Dana moved in fast, angry loops, stuffing clothes into 2 big suitcases with the urgency of someone who'd found a spider in her conscience. I watched for a moment. You learn a lot about a person by how they pack to leave you. She was efficient, violent but efficient. Jewelry raked into a bag, makeup devoured whole. The toothpaste no one likes and the face cream that costs more than tires. All of it swept up like a crime scene being cleaned. "Going somewhere?" I asked, voice steady. It sliced the air in 2. She froze with an armful of lace and cotton and poor decisions. When she turned, her face had that teenager caught sneaking out mix. Guilt, defiance, boredom with the consequences. "I didn't want to wake you," she said. Tone, faux apology. eyes flint. "Little late for courtesy calls," I said, sitting up. "So what's the plan? Midnight escape? Very cinematic." "Don't be sarcastic with me right now," she snapped, zipping a suitcase with surgical hostility. "Oh, sorry. Is this the part where I'm supposed to beg you not to grace the nightlife with your presence?" I stood, pulled the blinds aside, stared out at the kind of quiet suburban street that keeps secrets for decades. "Because that's not happening." "This is exactly why I'm leaving," she said. "You don't take anything seriously." "What I think," I said, "is that adults usually talk before they move out at 3 a.m. You wouldn't understand." Another zip. She was assembling a soundtrack. "You've never understood what I need." "Enlighten me," I said, leaning against the window frame. "What requires 2 suitcases and the bathroom cabinet?" She straightened. The speech was ready. It had been ready for weeks. "I need space. I need time to figure out who I am without you hovering and making decisions for both of us." "Hovering," I repeated. "Is that what we're calling it when I ask why you're home at 2:15 and why our savings look like a diet plan?" "Controlling," she corrected. "You question everything I do." "I question things that don't add up." "Whatever," she said, dumping jewelry into a smaller bag. "I can't do this anymore." This being, I let the sentence hang, being in a life where I'm not free. She grabbed her keys from the hook by the door, then stopped, calculating. "Actually," she said, "give me the spare set too." There it was, the line. I walked to my nightstand, slid the drawer open, pulled out the spare key to her car. Then I took her main set from the hook near the door. I held both out. "You're absolutely right," I said. "It is your life." She stared at my hand like it contained a trap. "You're just giving them to me?" "What did you expect?" I asked. "That I'd chain you to the radiator?" Her mouth twitched, and for a second I saw surprise, then something duller, disappointment. This wasn't the scene she'd rehearsed. No begging, no bargaining, no desperate promises to be better. Just me, calm as a lake with no wind. "Take them," I said. And when she didn't, I dropped the keys into her open bag. "When you walk out that door with those, you're making a choice. Choices have consequences." She swallowed the line I'd just fed reality. "Fine," she said, without the weight she'd hoped for. "Drive safe," I added. "That's it?" she demanded. "That's all you've got?" "What else would you like?" "Have a nice life. Don't be a stranger." I shrugged. "You made your position clear." She stood there, suitcases at her feet, eyes searching my face for the form of leverage she'd always found. I turned off the lamp. "Turn off the porch light when you leave," I said into the dark, "and lock the front door behind you." The sound she made, a little blade of breath, filed something in me smooth. The suitcase wheels complained across the floor, then the house swallowed her footsteps. The car coughed awake. Gravel talked. Then, quiet. Not the heavy kind, the kind with oxygen in it. I didn't go back to sleep. There are nights that are surgeries. You don't nap on the operating table. I made coffee and sat at the kitchen table with the window Dana claimed was positioned wrong, as if architecture was a personal attack. Dawn was late but honest. By 7, I was on the phone. First, the bank. "I need to remove access from our joint accounts," I said. "My spouse has decided to pursue other accommodations." The rep was cheerful in that corporate way that makes you wonder what they've seen. Primary account holder, 0 contributions from her for 2 years, signatures on file. 20 minutes later, the account was a single-player game again. Next, insurance, health, auto, life. It's amazing how quickly numbers deflate when you stop carrying someone who insists she's not a burden. Then, hardware store. By 10, every exterior door had new locks. There's a spiritual quality to a screwdriver when you're turning it away from your past. Around noon, my phone buzzed. A text. "My card isn't working. What did you do?" I stared at it, then typed, "Nothing. You said it's your life. Figure it out. 2 calls, ignored. 2 voicemails, the same script. I was petty, vindictive, controlling. On the 3rd call, I answered. What? I said. You can't just cut me off, Dana shot back. That's illegal. It's also not illegal to secure my own money when the non-contributor vacates the premises at 3 a.m. That's a long phrase. Google abandonment. You're being ridiculous. I'm being practical. I kept my tone even. You made a choice. I'm making mine. We need to talk about this like adults. Adults don't sneak out with 2 suitcases and a manifesto. I never said this was permanent, she blurted. And there it was, the trap door creaking open. The script she'd written for both of us. She leaves. I panic. She returns to a revised version of me. Unfortunate, I said. I'm treating it like it is. Then I hung up and turned the phone off. Sometimes the healthiest boundary is a power button. The next 2 days were quiet in a way I'd forgotten existed. Dinner tasted like food instead of negotiations. The remote stayed where I put it. The thermostat obeyed the Geneva Conventions. You don't realize how loud one person's dissatisfaction can be until it moves out. Wednesday evening, the quiet snapped. The rattle of a key in the front door echoed down the hall, followed by frustrated knocking. Dana had finally tried her old access. What the hell, Troy? Why won't this open? I leaned against the wall, coffee in hand. Because the locks are new. Independence comes with updated hardware. You can't lock me out of my own house. Correction, I said evenly. It's my house. You left it. Guests don't get lifetime keys. Silence, then a thud as her palm hit the door. This is illegal. No, I said. This is practical. More rattling, more muttered curses, then the sound of gravel as her car sulked down the street. By Thursday, the phone calls evolved. I picked up the first out of curiosity. I've been thinking about us, Dana said, voice sugared to the point of diabetes. Did we happen? Because I can't recall the last time us didn't come with a timer and an alibi. Don't be like that. We had good times. Sure, back when you thought happiness was something you ordered and I delivered. I'm trying to be nice. No, I said. You're trying to be effective. Her next line cracked like a match. I made a mistake. I was emotional. You were organized, I corrected. There were packing cubes. Can we talk face to face? We did for 8 years. You talked. I listened. Sabbatical's long overdue click, end of call. An hour later, a new tactic. Guilt by family. I stopped by Mom's. She asked where you were. I didn't know what to tell her. Try the truth. You walked out at 3 a.m. because freedom needed night vision. She wouldn't understand. Then maybe ask yourself why. Troy, she said, fraying at the edges. You're being mean. No, I'm being precise. Mean would be letting you rewrite last week as a rom-com silence stretched. Then the knife she'd been sharpening all day. There's someone else. There's someone else I'm not responsible for, I said. Me. Friday she escalated geography. My assistant cracked the office door. There's a woman here who says she's your wife. Tell her I'm in meetings all day? She says she'll wait. Then she'll learn about diminishing returns. An hour later, security walked her out. I didn't look. Dignity is not clapping for a performance you didn't buy tickets to. That night, a new text. I talked to a lawyer. You can't kick me out of my own home. I forwarded it to my attorney with 3 words, please educate accordingly. Then I replied, happy to let your lawyer review your voluntary departure and your 0 contributions. Should be enlightening. This isn't over, she wrote. It is, I sent back. You're just the last to know. Saturday was weightless. I cleaned the kitchen until it gleamed like an apology I never got. Tossed out a graveyard of half-used serums. Stood in the bedroom doorway like an archaeologist rediscovering peace. There's a holiness to empty space. Sunday morning, 7 a.m. sharp, 1 week since her exit. The key scraped again, then pounding, then the doorbell. I know you're in there, Dana's voice carried through the wood. Your week is up. I'm ready to come home. The word was an intruder. I stayed calm. What do you want? To come in. This is my house. No, it isn't. Stop being ridiculous. I live there. You left here. Words matter. That was temporary. I told you I needed space. And I gave you the deluxe package, I said. Permanent space. Open this door. Why would I? You already packed your bags and your declaration. I was angry. People say things when they're angry. They also do things, I said, like leave. You can't lock me out forever. She circled the house, tried the back, the windows. Nothing. The silence returned with her voice smaller, almost human. I made a mistake. Yes, I said. Several. Can't we work this out? There's nothing to work out. You made your choice. I made mine. What choice? To be happy. To live without a timer on the doorknob. This isn't fair. Fair would have been a conversation before you packed. Fair would have been treating marriage like it mattered. Fair would have been fixing instead of fleeing long pause. Then the truth she'd been hiding under drama. I thought you'd come after me. Why would I chase someone sprinting away from me? Because that's what people do when they love someone. No, that's what people do when they're desperate. Real love respects choices, even the stupid ones. So you don't love me anymore? I let it hang then. I loved who I thought you were. Not who you turned out to be. No screaming. No tears. Just footsteps retreating and a car door slamming shut. I finished my coffee while the house remembered itself. That night, one last text. I hope you're happy. For the first time in years, I was. By Tuesday night, I should have known the silence wouldn't last. Quiet isn't Dana's natural habitat. If she's not the center of the storm, she'll drag clouds over until thunder listens. The knock came at 7 p.m., but it wasn't her usual frantic tattoo. It was organized. A chorus of footsteps on the porch, a murmur of voices, and then the voice I didn't expect, her mother. Troy, the matriarch announced through the door, tone dripping with self-importance. We need to talk. No, I thought, we really don't. I opened the blinds just enough to see the whole cavalry lined up, Dana in the middle, flanked by her mother and sister like they were staging an intervention. For a moment I wondered if they rehearsed in the driveway. What is this? I called through the door. Did you hire a support group? Her mother frowned. Though I couldn't see it, I could hear it. She's my daughter, and she's hurting. We came to help. She hurt herself, I replied. I didn't pack those bags. I didn't demand keys. I didn't storm out at 3 a.m. She did all that? Solo performance? You're being cruel, her sister chimed in, voice sharp. She made one mistake. One mistake? I laughed, low. Let's review. Packing 2 suitcases, clearing the bathroom cabinet, demanding keys, slamming doors, declaring independence. That's not one mistake. That's a curriculum. Dana finally piped up, voice raised for the audience she'd brought. You can't just erase 8 years, Troy. I didn't erase them, I said. You did. With your grand exit. I'm just sweeping up the confetti. Her mother leaned closer to the door. People can change. You have to give her a chance. People can, I agreed. She won't. Because this isn't about change. This is about control. She left to prove she could, and she came back to prove I'd chase her. Spoiler alert, I didn't. From the corner of my eye, I caught the neighbors peeking out of curtains, dogs pausing mid-walk. The porch had become theater, and Dana, ever the actress, raised her voice for the cheap seats. You replaced me, she shouted. You think you'll find someone better? I smiled, the kind of smile she always hated. The quiet one that meant I wasn't breaking. I'm not looking for anyone, Dana. I already found what you never gave me, peace in my own house. Her sister gasped. Her mother muttered something about heartlessness, but Dana's face, oh, I could imagine it. That moment when the lines on her script shriveled into ash. You'll regret this, she snapped, her voice thin with fury. The only thing I regret, I said, calm as a surgeon, is wasting 8 years begging for scraps of happiness from someone determined to stay miserable. That one landed. I heard her mother's sharp inhale, her sister's whisper, "Dana, maybe we should go." And then the shuffle of retreat. But Dana wasn't done. She lunged closer to the door, spitting venom through the wood. "This isn't over, Troy." "It was over the second you packed your bags," I replied. "You're just late to the funeral." Their footsteps retreated, gravel crunching under their shoes. A car door slammed, then another. Then the engine coughed again, and the convoy pulled away. Silence returned. Real silence. The kind without witnesses, without scripts, without her. I leaned against the doorframe, listening to the house breathe easy again. Funny thing about storms, once they pass, the air feels lighter, like the world's been washed clean. For the first time in years, I wasn't waiting for the next eruption. By Thursday evening, I thought maybe the storm had finally moved on. The house was calm, clean, even smelled like furniture polish instead of drama. Then came the knock. Not the frantic pounding I'd gotten used to, but a polite, measured knock. The kind you'd expect from someone holding a casserole, not a grudge. When I opened the door, there she was, Emily from next door, younger than Dana, cheerful in that simple, genuine way that used to irritate my wife to no end. In her hands, a pie wrapped in foil, still warm. "Hi, Troy," she said, a little hesitant. I heard some noise the other night. Looked out, saw Dana with her family on your porch. I just wanted to check if everything's okay." It was the first time in a week that anyone had asked me that question without hidden claws. I felt something unusual tug at my mouth. Oh, right, a smile. "Everything's fine now," I said. "Come in. At least let me make you some tea." She looked surprised but nodded, stepping into the house. For the first time in years, my kitchen wasn't a battlefield. It was just a place with a pie, 2 cups, and a conversation that didn't involve accusations. Emily told me about her garden, about her work at the office downtown, about the weather being too dry for her roses. Mundane, ordinary things. And God, they sounded like music. Halfway through our tea, my phone buzzed on the counter, lighting up with Dana's name. I didn't pick it up. I didn't need to be a genius to figure out what had just happened. Every neighborhood has at least one window that doubles as a surveillance post, and gossip here travels faster than broadband. Someone had probably texted Dana the second they saw Emily walk through my door with that pie, busybody news, hand-delivered straight to my ex. So I wasn't surprised when 10 minutes later the porch started shaking under her fists. "I know who's in there!" Dana's voice tore through the door like a siren. "Open up, Troy! I know exactly who you've got in my house." I set my cup down, looked at Emily, who froze mid-sip, wide-eyed. She looked like she'd just walked into the wrong movie theater and landed in a horror flick. "Don't worry," I told her, calm as ever. "She's just rehearsing Act 2. The banging intensified. "You think you can humiliate me like this?" "Let me in." I walked to the door but didn't open it. "Dana," I said through the wood, "you're making a scene." "You're cheating on me," she shrieked. "With her of all people." I knew it. Behind me, Emily set her cup down carefully and straightened her back. To her credit, she didn't run. "Should I leave?" she whispered. "No," I said. "You're a neighbor who brought over a pie. That's not a crime. She can scream all she wants. Doesn't change reality." Dana slammed her palm against the door one last time. "You think this is funny?" "Funnier than your lawyer threats," I said, voice dry. "And certainly funnier than watching you declare independence, then storm back demanding rent-free sovereignty." The shouting went on for a few more minutes, the words blurring together. Rage, jealousy, desperation, all stirred into one incoherent cocktail. Then tires screeched, gravel spit, and her car stormed off down the street. Inside, the silence settled back in, heavy but welcome. Emily exhaled, shaking her head. I had no idea." "Don't apologize," I said, pouring us both more tea. "You just proved something I've been saying for years. Drama isn't a side effect with Dana, it's the whole product. For the first time in a long time, someone across the table laughed with me instead of at me. The texts started coming in bursts, like fireworks set off by a drunk, uneven, too loud, and destined to fizzle. You can't erase me. This is my house. I'll take everything in court. You'll regret this. And then, 5 minutes later, please, Troy, I don't have anywhere else. We can fix this. I didn't bother replying. Why add more oxygen to a fire that was choking on its own smoke? By Saturday night, the performance escalated. Headlights swept across my windows, brakes squealed, and then came the pounding on the door. Troy, open this door! This is my home! I didn't move right away. Just sipped my coffee and listened to the familiar rhythm of her fists on the wood. She always did have a knack for percussion. You can't keep me out forever, she screamed. I'm your wife. You were my wife, I said evenly, loud enough for the door to carry. Now you're a guest who overstayed her welcome. That only fueled her. She circled the house, rattled windows, hammered on the back door. The porch light flickered as if even the electricity was tired of her. And then, like clockwork, the police showed up. 2 officers stepped out, weary but professional. One knocked politely. Sir? Everything all right? Better than it sounds, I said, opening the door just enough. Dana leapt at the chance. He locked me out of my own home. He changed the locks. The officer raised a hand. Ma'am, do you live here? Yes, this is... She faltered. I mean, I did, but... The second officer glanced at me. Sir, she left weeks ago, I said. Packed her bags, demanded her keys, walked out. Haven't contributed to the mortgage in 2 years. She doesn't reside here anymore. Dana's face crumpled, trying to pull rage over shame. He can't do that. The first officer shook his head slowly. Ma'am, this is a civil matter. If you voluntarily moved out, he's within his rights. You'll have to take it up legally. But right now you can't force entry. Her voice cracked. So you're just gonna let him throw me out like trash? The officer sighed. No one threw you anywhere. You left. That's on you. And just like that, her last weapon jammed. The neighbors were watching again. I could feel their eyes. Curtains shifting, porch lights clicking on. The audience she always wanted, and the script collapsing in her hands. The officers escorted her to her car. She hesitated, glaring at me one last time, like she could still summon thunder. Then the door slammed, the engine roared, and she was gone. Sunday morning, the knock returned. Not the violent, entitled one. This was hesitant, soft, like she was afraid the door might answer back. Troy? Her voice called, smaller now. Please, just talk to me. I stayed silent. She tried again. I was stupid. I thought you'd come after me. I don't know what I thought. I opened the door halfway. She looked different. Not softer, not kinder, just stripped of her theater makeup. Raw. Can't we just try again? She asked, almost whispering. I held her gaze. Calm, cold. I'm not your audience anymore, Dana. I don't clap for reruns. Her eyes filled, but I didn't flinch. You don't love me? I loved who I thought you were, I said finally, not who you showed me. No screaming this time, no fists, just silence. She nodded once, turned, and walked down the steps. The car door shut, the engine faded. And then, nothing. Real nothing. I closed the door, locked it, and stood there for a long moment, listening to the house breathe easy. No footsteps, no accusations, no storm pressing at the walls. Just space, just peace. She once said this wasn't the end. But the truth is, the end comes the moment you stop opening the door. And I had closed it for good. Divorce, as it turns out, is less like an explosion and more like housekeeping. Paperwork, signatures, court dates that feel like waiting rooms for the inevitable. Dana tried her best to turn it into a drama, but judges don't clap for tears. In the end, the house was mine, the accounts stayed closed, and the marriage was filed under irreparable differences. which is lawyer speak for she burned the bridge, he never rebuilt it. Dana moved into a cramped apartment across town. Word is she bounced between jobs, tried to rekindle old flames, and eventually started posting vague, inspirational quotes on Facebook about new beginnings. I suppose everyone needs a hobby. As for me, I kept the house, painted the living room, learned how quiet mornings can actually taste like peace when they're not laced with someone else's resentment. And somewhere in all that silence, Emily and I started talking more. It wasn't fireworks, no violins, no dramatic declarations, just small things. Tea on the porch, her bringing over extra tomatoes from her garden, me fixing her fence one Saturday afternoon. Ordinary, steady things that felt foreign after years of chaos. Dana used to call Emily the nosy neighbor. I call her a friend, maybe more, eventually. But here's the truth. Even if it never goes further, the fact that I can sit across from someone, share a laugh, and not feel like I'm being cross-examined, that's already better than what I had before. Freedom doesn't always come with a parade. Sometimes it just comes with a slice of pie, a quiet evening, and the realization that the only door worth locking is the one you'll never open again. If you felt this story hit hard, drop a like, subscribe for more, and share your thoughts in the comments. Your support keeps Steelheart beating.